So this is what the outside looks like. Today, this video is going to be about three theist arguments. Last episode was about understanding why atheists don't believe, but this episode is going to be about providing three theist arguments. And these are arguments I feel like are more organic and are going to work better when you're trying to discuss something with an atheist. So if you're just trying to argue with them, these aren't the best. If you're just trying to shut down, these aren't the best. But if you want to teach somebody something or let people know what you really believe, these are good rational arguments for theism. And I'm about to tell you what those three are, and I'm going to end with the best one. So the first one is when you look at the universe, it's actually strangely empty. And when you talk to scientists, they can't help but admit this. Given everything we know about life, there should be some stuff going on. When people joke about aliens abducting people and probing them and doing all these things, that actually should be happening. When you think about how many planets should be habitable in the universe, the way the scientists explain it, and then given the variation in the technology, which means some civilizations should be around where we are, maybe, but most are going to be a lot further advanced. We're actually in some kind of infancy when you look at the growth of technology, which means in the past 100 years, in the past 10 years, we've seen technology grow at a much higher rate than it has in the past. Given that, we're at the beginning. So that's logically the beginning. And if that's logically the beginning, then most civilizations are going to have higher technology. There's just not a lot of sentient, cognitive, conscious beings out there. They're going to be way back where we are, where we haven't even improved the toilet. It's a hole in the ground still. So my point is, the world is empty. Given what we know, we should have aliens visiting, I don't know, every Tuesday. We should be able to spot them with these telescopes that look into other solar systems and potentially other galaxies. I don't know. I'm not a cosmologist or cosmetologist or whatever it's called, and I don't care. I don't get my stuff right. It just doesn't happen. What I'm telling you is the world's empty. That's not me doing it. That's a fact. And it shouldn't be this empty. What is one explanation? That it is more man focused, that it is more focused on what's going on here on Earth, and that this is something unique. And the way the natural world is explained, this shouldn't be this unique. That's really the conclusion. Number two, I got my notes right here. The fact that we haven't blown each other up with nukes. What does that even mean? Like, how do you understand how humans act in every other walk of life? And then you give them these bombs that can immediately win wars. They've been in wars ever since it was invented in 1944, 1945. We've had wars every year somewhere. Obviously, we have 10 going on right now. No one's ever nuked anybody. Other than those first two nukes dropped on Japan, never been another nuke used in a war. No rogue country. The United States didn't do it for the same reasons as World War II, to stop a war that's going to end up killing more people than the nuke did. There wasn't even pragmatic usage, which means measuring the cost benefit analysis and it really being commonsensical to use it at that point. Nothing, no nukes. We've got these nukes. We've got everyone pissed off. We've got warfare everywhere. No one's used a nuke. Why is that? Just from the outside. Don't overanalyze this. I'm an expert at not overanalyzing. That's why you're watching. I could underanalyze a popsicle. So the point is, when you look at the world in terms of military, warfare, conflict globally, when you look at these things, there's actually a term for it, geopolitics, I think. I don't even know what that means. The point is, no one's used a nuke. It's not that hard to grasp. It should have happened. There should have been accidents. There should have been problems. There isn't enough problems associated with the rise of the nuclear weapon in whatever form, whether it's this large ballistic missile, whether it's a tactical nuke. Nothing. Zero. And I'm not saying, knock on wood, I hope no one uses it. That's not my point. I think we should end all these stupid wars for nothing because they're dumb. The point is nukes. That was really sophisticated, wasn't it? No one's used a nuke. That's a pretty powerful argument when you look at it rationally, when you separate it from the scientific scientism that overanalyzes everything. You don't need to overanalyze it. No one's used it. Except those two, nothing. How? Something's keeping us from doing it, or there's some force, or there's some fated situation. I'm not saying I believe any of this stuff. What I'm telling you is these are the arguments. That's number two. Best argument. Number three, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. There's a lot of serious, real stuff that we don't know. Philosophy was hijacked by science. It's called scientism in 1745, approximately. And scientists have run amok in philosophy. Do you see Bandit back there? Because I see him in the camera. I don't know what he's doing. I've got all these chupacabras in the backyard. Some of them are about 2,000 pounds. And if they see him, they're going to eat him. So if you see a giant animal behind me, let me know. This is not live, but good luck. There's so many unknown things, like why there's chupacabras in my yard. The number one thing we don't understand, consciousness. What is it? And the scientists love to tell you it's just purely atoms. That's a terrible argument. It's terrible. This is where you attack the atheist. There is no way. Even David Hume, who invented this, went back on it and said, I can't explain my experiences in life as a self, as a entity, as a being experiencing a continuous self, which really just means a conscious entity. All this stuff revolves around consciousness. Consciousness is the mind that you have separated from the physical brain. Physical brain is an organ we can look at in science. Granted, the mind is something else. We don't understand it at all, and we pretend that we do. That pretending, that scientism, is what really gives us the ammunition against non-believers. I'm not saying it proves your point. That's the point logically and rationally in philosophy. Because you disprove them doesn't mean you can automatically prove you. But you do have to have conversations, and you do have to demonstrate that your position is viable, which means when the atheist says consciousness is explained by atoms, you can roll your eyes all you want, because that's what I'm doing. But it's clear we don't know. It's clear that when we talk about it, we get the two things confused: mind, body, consciousness, brain. We get those things confused. What consciousness does is an active, fluid, unknown, intuitive, almost seamless, originating concept. It is our subjective experience, but it can also be argued for objectively, which is merely to say in common sense, all people experience it. When you look at that, and then you look at the atoms moving around in the brain, there's no comparison. And scientists do one simple thing: correlate brain activity with self-reported consciousness. I'm thinking this lights up. That's a terrible correlation in terms of what consciousness is and where it is. It's a great correlation because it probably is happening. The repetition, the science involved. It's clearly true that that correlation holds for activity, but it doesn't tell you that consciousness is there in the brain. It doesn't tell you that consciousness is merely atoms. In fact, it doesn't tell you what consciousness is at all. And remember this: your hero, Isaac Newton, said about gravity, I can tell you what it looks like, I can give you some rules, I can tell you what it does, can't tell you what it is at all. Can't tell you a thing, because that is the unknown aspect. And as a scientist, I owe it to you to be honest. That's Newton, not me. Right? So that plays into what Thomas Reid said, who was a religious person in the 18th century who fought against this scientism. Those are your three arguments. Let me sum them up really quick for you. World is empty, strangely empty. Don't have any nuclear weapon applications used since World War II. Man has not blown himself up like we thought he was going to. Simply put, 1950s, everyone's peeing their pants. And now, well, it's even worse, but we're still in that same situation. Now, tomorrow they might use one of my arguments dead. But right now, man hasn't blown himself up, and he should have. That's the key. That was number two. Number three, there's a lot of unknowns. Focus on consciousness and free will. What is this business of consciousness that gives us a self, that makes us who we are, that allows us to be free and different and truly cognitive and conscious in that sense. What is that unknown? Focus on those three things, talk about them, and there's your position. Thanks for watching.